Hi, I am Michael Steckner, and on behalf of my two co-authors, present a short summary regarding our letter to the editor on suspicious MRI safety statistics. And for a disclosure statement, the authors have no conflicts in regards to the subject matter, nor are the authors affiliated with Tyler Vigen or his website, and we have permission to reuse material from his website. And lastly, thanks to Dr. Schweitzer, Editor-in-Chief of JMRI, for inviting this presentation. The FDA MAUDE database is a post-market surveillance tool to monitor for serious incidents. This enables all to identify opportunities to improve both individual products and MRI overall. There are 4 MRI product codes, and the graphic shows where to apply them if you wish. Note that there is no hidden meaning to these codes. If the FDA needs a new code, they just simply grab the next available letter combination. LNH by far contains the majority of MRI incidents. But not all MRI incidents even get reported under those 4 codes. For example, leadless pacemakers involved in an incident in an MRI are likely to be found under the PNJ code. As well, I point out that the date field is the reporting date, not the event date. Frequently, events take years to get reported. I recall one event where by the time the MRI vendor learned about the incident, the scanner had been deinstalled and it was impossible to collect any information. MAUDE is concerned about serious injury and death. There's a legal definition for serious injury. I generalize all of this to needing more than just simple first aid. A medical doctor was involved. One finds many reports that probably don't qualify really as serious, such as a first-degree burn. The FDA welcomes reports from patients and medical professionals, but it is mandatory for manufacturers and user facilities to report. However, apparently some medical institutions may forbid employees from reporting. Manufacturers can only report what they become aware of, and if it passes their interpretation of serious injury. As already noted, my personal opinion is that a first-degree skin burn would likely not qualify, but we do find many of those in MAUDE. As well, it is generally not realized that if the incident occurred outside of the USA on a product also sold in the USA, it needs to be reported. Thus, to add international reports and compare against USA procedure growth introduces some distortion in an analysis, nor can you actually identify necessarily which events occurred outside of the United States. Lastly, it should be noted that sometimes there are multiple reports for the same event as a vendor updates information to the FDA. If one follows the previous link to the MAUDE database, there is also an additional link to an explanatory page. One of the sections is on the limitations. Here we quote 2 specific sentences. Summary, assessing rate is not possible. There is even a paper cited in the letter by Delfino et al. That repeats that limitation. It is possible that those who do such trend analysis of MAUDE LNH incident rates versus the number of MRI procedures here in the United States do not fully appreciate these limits. So here's an example of a fantastic correlation, but I suspect we will all immediately agree that the distance between Neptune and the Earth has really no impact on the number of burglaries in Kansas. It's just one of many funny examples to be found at the Spurious Correlations website. But the good news for those familiar with the Wizard of Oz story is that Toto need not be scared while walking along the yellow brick road. And here is another correlation we can safely assume is pure coincidence. The number of MAUDE LNH reports tracks amazingly well with the number of New York Times fiction bestsellers. Furthermore, the correlation coefficient on this graph is higher than the correlation coefficient we computed for the example referenced in slide 6. Do note that the Spurious Correlation website only uses the portion of the data we uploaded that match the particular data sets it retains. Hence, you'll see a variable range of years on the x-axis. Now, this correlation is a little more complicated. We cannot find any transparent or solid reason for which FDA MAUDE LNH rate would correlate with yogurt consumption. So we tentatively conclude here there is no causal correlation. If you can divine a reason, we would appreciate hearing your enlightenment. And here is another spurious correlation. We strongly believe that there is no correlation between the number of nuclear medicine technologists in Florida versus the total number of mod LNH incidents. That said, we can be sure that those technologists do a fantastic job of counting photons incident on their detectors. Hopefully by now we have given you several examples of excellent correlations which simply do not stand up to any cursory investigation. That is why they are called spurious correlations, and the common statistical mantra, correlation does not imply causation. However, it does not necessarily disprove it either. Thus, one needs to complete an analysis in both directions, or something we can call a disproof. One way of viewing the data may be ambiguous, but analyzing the same data a different way may crystallize a conclusion. It seems reasonable to assume that increasing utilization of MRI equipment would lead to an increasing number of incidents. However, it is widely suspected, but nobody knows for sure, that the number of incidents in MOD is a vast underreport. Some have speculated that it could be as much as a factor of 100 too low. Perhaps that would be an excessive estimate, but somehow a factor of 10x underreporting seems too low on the other hand. We simply just don't know. So let's work an example here assuming a 100-time underreport. Let's say in some given year there were 200 incidents reported. That suggests that there might have been as many as 20,000 incidents. Now there is nothing that controls the rate of reporting. If that reporting rate changed by a trivial 1%, that would instantly double the number of MOD reports. Given that large variability, it is simply impossible to look at the MOD data and confidently assess any trends. Such an assessment serves absolutely no useful purpose and is only a distraction. This is part of the reason why the FDA states MOD is not suitable for trend analysis. The letter to the editor also details a few other limiting aspects. In conclusion, correlation does not imply causation, nor does it disprove it. One must always view data with a skeptical eye. Does it really make sense? As well, it is essential to assess the input data, its quality and reliability for the desired analysis. For example, those MRI procedure counts are a statistical assessment and confidence intervals are not provided. Thus, there is also an unknown level of uncertainty regarding the procedure growth data. It is a challenge to read the associated narratives with each MOD incident report, but if one reads enough of them, insights can emerge. That is the value of the MOD database. Please always assess statistics with a skeptical eye and never accept trend analysis based on MOD data. Thank you.